Welcome to Triangle BNI. Today's show is brought to you by Oak City Tech. We talk each week about the digital world. There's so many new things to learn. Probably while we're talking today, somebody's inventing something that in a month we'll be hearing about and may or may not want to try it. So you need a team of professionals like Drago's team at Oak City Tech that can help you navigate everything. If you go to oakcitytech.com, tell them what you're looking for. I know they'll be able to help you. Hi, everybody. My name is Mike Manning. Each week on Triangle BNI, we bring you a local small business success story. If you are not familiar with BNI, it is Business Networking International, the world's largest networking organization. Our little slice of heaven here in the Triangle, Raleigh, Durham, and Chapel Hill. Each week, about 31 chapters and almost 525 members get together, and our job is to help each other grow their businesses. And our local small business success story today is Greg Davis, the owner of the law office of Gregory S. Davis. Greg is in RD 26. They meet Tuesdays at 11:30. The first two Tuesdays of the month, they're on Zoom. The second 2 weeks of the month, they are live at the Blue Olive Bistro in Durham. Greg, how are you this morning?
Seeing you. Thank you for having me on today.
Oh, man, glad to have you here. I got a number of questions. I do my professional stalking over the weekend to do some, because I just want good questions to talk about. The people that watch the show know we get it. I tell people all the time, I know what interstate we're starting on, but I can't wait for the first off ramp because that's where
Yeah,
the good
yeah.
stories are. So
Awesome.
a couple questions first. Greg does estate planning, real property law, and contracts. And we'll get into why in the world anybody wants to read contracts, but I'll get to that in a minute. Okay. So what does the S stand for?
Oh, very good. The S stands for Stanford. I didn't request that. My father came up with that all by himself. He loved Stanford University out west. Not that I went there, but that's just where it came from.
I like that. I've never heard that before from a college. Usually it's a family member or some name on TV or a movie or something, but you named
Right.
after a semi named after a college. I like that. I like that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You are from New York.
Yeah.
So, what I've learned over the last couple of months with Zoom networking events within the Triangle, the connections to the state of New York are just growing and growing. And
Yeah.
it's funny, a couple of meetings, actually, the connecting point was the Syracuse University.
Yeah.
Where in New York are you from?
So I'm from a place called Hempstead, Long Island, which is in Nassau County. So when I tell people I'm from Long Island, they immediately think the Hamptons. And I said, well, whoa, well, thank you for that. The Hamptons were about 2 hours away. I was more about 30 minutes outside of Queens. So really, really close to New York City, but definitely Long Island.
Now, what sports teams does that make you?
Oh, well, by default, I'm really close to Hofstra University, which is also really close to where the New York Islanders play. So you kind of have to root for the Islanders. You kind of have to root for the Jets and or the Giants, depending on how you flow. I was more of a Giants guy, and of course, the New York Knicks. I mean, that was just
Yeah.
without question.
Yeah. Does that then how did the Mets and the Yankees flush out from Hampstead?
Well, it's like if you want to consider yourself upper crust, you go with the Yankees. I'm more of a I'm down with the blue collar folks, and my dad would always take me to Mets games, so I'm definitely more of a Mets fan.
At any point in time, first of all, how many siblings do you have?
Just one older sister,
Okay.
Natalie.
So you're the only son. At any point in time, did you think, I'm gonna stick it to my dad, I'm gonna start cheering for the Yankees? Or
Oh no. And back in my time when I would go, I mean, it was like Darryl
yeah.
Strawberry, Doc
Yep.
Gooden, Keith Hernandez. I mean, there was no reason to root for the Yankees back then.
Yeah, that's true. But there's so many people from New York, and we'll get to what got you down here.
Yeah.
But estate planning, the legal world, that was not your original trade, was it?
No, not at all. not at all. I actually was in banking. Specifically, I was in retirement services at a large regional bank here in North Carolina for about 8 years. But in that group, I was working with the retirement group. So what I was tasked with was going out and to small companies where we had already sold a 401k plan, and we were basically I was basically educating the employees on their investment options in a 401k plan. And what's amazing to me, Mike, was that whether I was talking to attorneys in Winston-Salem or factory workers somewhere in like Greensboro, people still didn't know the difference between a stock and a bond and a mutual fund, and then how to choose their investments based on their risk tolerance. And I really love that. I really love that job.
What did you learn from the people that made you think one day, "I need to get my law degree and help with estate planning and people taking care of themselves and their loved ones?"
So I'm all about generational wealth, and so that's why I think my first love was really investing and help people understand how to choose their investments. And as I started to build upon that idea of generational wealth, I realized that if I want to go a step further beyond just talking about their investments, but what about everything else? What about their entire estate plan? What about their real estate? What about making sure that the documents are in place so that they can pass on? Often the largest asset that most people have is their home. How can they pass it on to their children? If they own a small business, how can they pass that on to their children? And so I thought that by getting that law degree, I could just basically go to another level, right? Level up and try to help people in a different way.
Did you get that math/money/preparation slash preparation for the future gene from a family member?
Oh, I would say without a doubt. I probably have two stories there. The first one I'll start with, and this is a question I ask all the time. I say to a group of people, I say, who tends to be better investors, women or men? Right? And people hem and they haw and they try to figure it out. And all the guys in the room, of course,
Yeah,
they say men.
yeah.
They drop the voice. Men are better investors. But it turns out, Mike, that women tend to be better investors than men, right? And why is that? And this is what my mom did: is women tend to invest in what they know, right? So if a woman drinks Coca-Cola, or she uses Lululemon clothing, or she shops at Target, then she will tend to invest in those areas. Men are more likely to go to the cookout on Friday, and they heard about this new hot, tech
Yeah.
company they don't know much about, and they might drop 5 or 10 grand on it, not really knowing the details. But women tend to be a little bit more risk averse, and that plays out in how they choose their investment. So the first gene there was from my mom, right? And it takes the X and Y chromosome. And so for my dad, after my first job, I think it was like at a Burger King or something like that. I had my paycheck. He said, "What are you doing with your paycheck?" I said, "Well, Dad, I'm putting my paycheck in the bank." He said, "The bank?" He said, "You should be investing your money into a mutual fund." And I said, what is a mutual fund? And he explained that it's basically just a mix of stocks and bonds and cash. And by putting your money into this mutual fund with other people, and hopefully it's in companies that you might have heard of, like Apple or Amazon, that money on its own will grow over time. And he said that he worked at a bank where people were calling in and they would just call in to request a dividend check based on the money that their money was earning for them. I said, wait a minute, they're not working for that money. They're just living with their investments. He said, yes. I said, I have to figure that out. And that's where it came from, Mike.
The conversations you must have with husbands and wives have got to be the outtakes have got to be awesome. If you could ever
Oh, it's
not
fun.
asking you to share, but I bet the things you could share would just blow people's mind.
Oh, it's fun. It's fun. And I tell you what, man, going through the estate planning process, it's difficult to get that ball rolling, because people don't want to talk about it. They don't want to think about it. They know they need it, but they just don't want to do it. But I say, when we get in the room, people start to have some honest conversations about, well, who do I want to name as the executor?
Yep.
Or who do I want to make healthcare decisions or financial decisions on my behalf if I'm not able to? Do I want to have a do not resuscitate clause in my living will? These are some real world conversations, and it's great that we can have them together.
And that is an uncomfortable conversation for people to have because it surrounds death.
Absolutely.
And most people don't wanna have that conversation, but they have to, and I know you on more than one occasion have told a current or potential client, "Don't you wanna take care of your loved one?"
I mean, the whole point, and absolutely, and the whole point of estate planning, and sometimes it's rare, but sometimes people call me. People call me, and sometimes I can hear it in their voice. They're in their 20s, and I say, "Why are you calling me? You're in your 20s, and I'm happy you called me. Don't hang up, but I want more of this. So why are you calling me?" And they say, "Well, Greg, I had a family member pass away, and we're still working through the probate process 6, 7, 8 months after that person passed away, and it's just a mess. And so I want to make sure that I basically clean house before I pass away. I want to get my stuff in order to make things easier for the loved ones that I'm leaving behind." And I said,
Yeah.
that's it right there. That's it.
And no matter what people think of government, my next statement has nothing, I'm not taking a soapbox stand or anything, but you do not want the local government deciding either a timeline on when things are gonna work or their decision on what happens with your money, and more importantly, what happens with your kids. You just don't want somebody else making that decision.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So it's definitely imperative, especially if you have young children. Who do you want to name as the guardians for your children? If you have a significant, or not even significant, and that's something I always try to tell people also, Mike. People say, well, I don't have, uh, Elon Musk dollars in the bank account. I'm not Oprah Winfrey, and that's not the case. And I always like to say, uh, everyone has an estate, but not everyone has a plan. And the reason is every single person, when you pass away, there has to be an account made of your estate. How much money did you have in your bank account? How much money did you have in your brokerage account? What real estate did you own? Do you owe anyone? Do you owe any creditors? These things need to be documented. And so it's just really great to, when you go on a vacation, you want to walk into a hotel room that's already been cleaned, right? You want the bed to be made, you want the bathroom to be clean, and it's kind of the same thing. You just want to make sure that you have your documents in place, even maybe just a letter of understanding.
Yeah.
This is how I pay my bills. This is where I keep my passwords. The more you can organize things ahead of time, the easier it is for those coming behind you.
Yeah, because your family members are grieving enough with your loss. They don't wanna have to decide or fight over money, and they back to your comment about owning a small business, the last thing most people wanna do is go into business with their partner's spouse, because lots
Right.
of times the spouse wants no part of the business, and
Absolutely
just little
right.
things like that, so button up all that stuff and take care of them so they can, deal with your loss in their own way instead of worrying about 18 other things.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Let's get it all organized. Let's get it into one location, a nice notebook. We can make it digital if you like, but let's just get it all together so that at the end of it, there's peace of mind.
Mhm. Yeah.
You didn't want to go to the gym on Tuesday, but you went. You didn't want to go hit that treadmill, but you did it. And at the end, that's when you feel better. You're like, oh, you know what? It was a task. It was a little bit of a chore, but I got it done, and I feel much better about it.
There's a number of things you've done that I as I was, doing some research on you, it's like, "Okay, that's the lead. No, no, wait, that's the lead," and then I read something else like, "No, no, that's so." You've done something that a lot of people have, writing a book on their bucket list, and most people never did, but you wrote a book, ABCs of Money for Boys and Girls, and that's
Oh,
that's powerful, man. When I
oh,
read that, I loved you, but I love that about you doing it.
oh man, I tell you, I have 4 children, ages 13 to 2, and I found myself reading books to them at night. You got to read at least 1 or 2 stories before they go to bed, and we're often reading about princesses or dragons, or sometimes there's some books related to science. But I said, well, what's my lane? What's my lane? And the lane that I want to share with my children is about financial literacy. And so I thought about, well, how can I get these words and concepts into them at a young age, right? I'm not saying let's not read the other books as well, but let's throw a little bit of financial literacy into the game. So ABCs of Money it's literally what we're saying. A stands for asset. Let's talk about what is an asset. B is for bank. How do you use a bank? And C is for credit. I had a niece who's like, she was 12 years old. And I asked her about a credit card, and she really didn't understand the concept of credit. And no fault of her own, but these are things that we don't often get in school. So I said, you know what? Let's have a resource that parents can use. They can use it for their children at night before they go to bed, 3 or 4 words at a time. And it's a really good resource. Anybody wants to see it, it's available on lulu.com, amazon.com, ABCs of Money, and for girls and boys. And I purposely put it for girls and boys because I want to make sure that the girls are included in this money conversation as well.
That's another conversation growing up I didn't have with my folks. Of course, I'm
Yeah,
a, generation ahead of a lot of people. But we never talked about that, and so for you to do that, I think that's huge. But again, your whole point was just to understand what it is.
yeah, yeah. Let's talk about it. One of the words in there is for the IRS. We all have a relationship with the IRS. We pay taxes, but our kids might not be familiar with it.
Mm.
Uh, we talk a little bit in there about taxes. We talk a little bit in there about um, the Federal Reserve. So it's just little things that as an adult, you kind of get these things. What is interest? Why should you pay your credit card back uh, on time? Uh, and these are things that as an adult you kind of get to know. But your kids, if you're not really purposely seeding this information into them, then they just might not get it. And I just believe that the sooner that they get their mind around this information, even if they don't get it, let's just present it to them, right? And then let's present it to them again in a couple months, or maybe even next year. And over time, I think that these things will start to sink in.
And how would you grade your kids taking care of their money after their famous dad wrote a book?
Well, they're really good about saving. One of the major things I wanted to get across in the book is the concept of a 401k plan and what is it and how it works. And so they really have a good idea about how to save some of the money that they do take in.
Good.
So it's been helpful.
And when you started at a young age, people have no idea how much that will grow. If you started
Absolutely.
at 14, 16, 18, just $50 a month, right? Just start putting something in.
A little bit over time.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I'm meeting people in the field and at work, now they're having to choose their investments for the very first time and they've never been exposed to it. So I'm
Yeah.
like, oh my goodness, let's get it into these kids' minds when they're young.
Yeah, we have no idea what plan's better. We had no
Right,
clue. We're just
right,
guessing, right?
right.
All right. So you were a financial advisor on Wall Street. Are all the movies and TV shows correct that leading this flamboyant life, lots of money, going to dinners and all these, fun places and everybody looks good and right? Easy life, huh?
Well, I'd say there's a mix. There's definitely some advisors that do very well and have a high net worth clientele. What I found is that most people uh, don't have the basics down. What is credit, insurance, savings, and health. So even before that ABC's book, I wrote a separate book called "The Four Pillars to Stand On Before Investing" because I just realized people just need help with the basics.
Yeah.
Getting the credit in order, getting some life insurance, make sure they have like 6 months savings, and then working on their health. Are you walking? Are you running? Are you biking? You got to do something. Mike, right now, I knew we had an hour. I'm standing, right? Because I want to make sure that I do something a little bit physical, even though we're stationary. But these are just things that people need to know.
Well, you would be happy with me because 6 out of 7 mornings, I do my old guy 5 a.m. neighborhood walk. It's
Yeah,
just me and a podcast, nobody else walking or driving. It's peaceful. Just that's how I get my day going. And you're right. The health part of it, most of us just, yeah, I'll do that later. And
right.
and later never happens, does it?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Did you enjoy life on Wall Street?
You know, I liked when I could work with a client and help them uh, de-risk their portfolio. That was really fun. The hard part about that particular position is uh, it's very sales oriented. And so if you're thinking that, I was thinking that maybe I'd have more time to help people with their finances, but there's a really huge drive to always get new clients.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but that's just kind of the nature of that position. So I was happy when I transitioned into something else because I felt like in my lane, I wanted to do more on the education side than just having to always get new clients in the door.
Yeah, and that's one of the neat things I've learned from BNI is the relational part of business.
Yeah,
There are some businesses like landscapers and stuff like that. They're transactional and they're going to be,
yeah,
but in your world, it is certainly, I think, when it comes to health or money, it's relational because those are two very personal topics that people are very careful on who they choose to help them with those topics.
absolutely, absolutely. And I've met some wonderful financial.
Ooh, this hadn't happened in a while. Uh, oh, you froze, Greg.
I saw that. I
Okay.
saw that. I think we're back.
Yep, you're back. Go ahead and you can give us that answer again on the
Oh, I
relational
was
part of
saying
it.
that I partner with several financial advisors, and they do a phenomenal job for their clients. They've made referrals to me to help their clients with their estate plans, and when I can, I'll make referrals back to them. So I think it's a team effort. I think that just for me personally, that wasn't my lane, but I definitely support financial advisors and everything that they do for their clients.
You have taken a circuitous route from New York to the Triangle. There's a couple of schools involved people have heard of.
Yeah,
You got your law degree from Campbell. You got an MBA from Bowie State in Maryland,
yeah,
an econ degree from the Wharton School of Business at the University of Pennsylvania. And
yeah,
folks, if you don't know about the Wharton School of Business, just think Stanford and Yale and all those schools. And that is a legendary school of business. And Greg, I want you to know I'm very impressed you graduated from there, but I'm even more impressed that you are captain of the track and field team at Penn.
absolutely, absolutely.
Oh, man. So you ran sprints and relays, right?
That's it.
All right, dead sprinter in the 100?
Yeah, so
Oh,
indoors, I ran the 55. I think
yep.
it's changed now to the 60. Everything up to the quarter. Outside, I ran the one, the two, up to the quarter, 4x1, 4x4.
All right, how good were you in high school, and why did you end up going to Penn?
Well, in high school, Mike, I was the indoor state champion in the 55-meter dash,
Wow.
going back to 1993. I also set the state record at that time, 1993. Uh, Outdoors, I was fourth place in the 100 in the state meet. And indoors, nationally, I was fourth in the 55-meter coming out of high school, 1993. So I had a very good high school career. Shout out to anybody from Uniondale High School, Uniondale, Long Island, Coach Dennis Cornfield. Uh, it was a great program. I have some lifelong friends from my time at Uniondale High School. So it was a great high school career.
Wow, congratulations on that success. How did it come down to Penn, and if you hadn't gone there, where would you have gone?
I looked at Brown University. I also went down to University of Texas.
Yeah, boy.
I mean, the coach came to my home. He sat on the plastic covered furniture in our living room. It all felt very overwhelming. But I'll tell you what, when University of Pennsylvania came knocking, my dad, who's from Panama, both my parents are from Panama, came over to the country in the 70s. So my dad was well aware of University of Pennsylvania and the Wharton School. I was not. And he said to me, he said, Greg, if you don't go to that school, this could be one of the biggest mistakes that you ever make. And he kind of just left it there. And so I kind of had my heart set on University of Texas. I'm like, great school,
Yeah.
great track program, definitely less expensive. But my dad definitely helped influence me on making that decision.
And that was the right choice, looking back
Oh
on
man, I
everything?
tell you, once again, I've made some lifelong friends. I actually just went back for my 25-year reunion last weekend. 2 weekends ago to Philadelphia, and I'm telling you, these are some lifelong relationships that I've made, and that's been the best part, is these relationships that I've made.
Wait, you graduated college in the '90s?
Yeah, 97,
Oh, man, you're so young.
97.
You're so young. Who was the track coach at Texas that came to visit?
I don't remember his name,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah,
but it
that's a
was the
good
head coach
program.
at the time.
And did you take a visit to Austin?
I did take a visit to Austin, and
Yeah,
they have
yeah.
this thing down there called the Texas Relays, and I'll
Oh,
never
yeah.
forget. I saw all the big guys, Leroy Burrell
Yep.
and Carl Lewis, Mike Marsh, and here's something else, Mike, that stuck with me always. Those guys are all like 100-meter, 200-meter guys, but it was early in the season. I saw them all run the 4x4, right? So that is a longer, harder race. But what stuck with me was this: you have to run that longer, harder race so that you can be stronger when you get to your individual event. And
Yes.
that stuck with me always. You got to do that thing that's a little bit outside of your comfort zone so you can excel where you live.
Well, here's our connection.
Yeah.
My first job out of college was at the University of Texas, where
Oh,
my wife and I got married in Austin,
oh,
and I worked in the women's athletic department. I was the assistant sports information director, and yes, the Texas Relays were a massive event.
yeah,
And back then, you hear of names, you're like, "Oh, yeah, well, maybe because there was no internet and everything back then," and guys like Michael Johnson, "Ooh,
yeah,
we can't wait to watch him run," and then you see him and you're like, and you've seen enough athletes where you've heard about them and you see them and you're like, "Okay, I get it now. They're
right,
just different."
right.
Whether they're a
Absolutely.
golfer and the sound of the ball coming off the club head, or I know when I graduated high school here, for those of you about my age, I graduated in '79. There's a running back went on to Carolina named Kelvin Bryant
Ah,
from Tarboro, and he was bigger and faster than everybody. But there was no internet. There were just scores in the newspaper.
wow.
And we just saw these times and stuff like that. And so finally one day we ran in a regional meet at Cary, and
Yeah.
everybody knew it was coming, and everybody couldn't wait to see him. And they were at the starting blocks, and, he's here and everybody else, everybody else like 6 or 8 inches shorter, and you just see it, and then they start the race, and you go, "Okay, I get it now. I see why he's" yeah, just but it was great because the buildup was impressive back then. It's
I
like, "Oh, I
believe it.
can't wait to see them," but now, to be captain, though, of any athletic team, first of all, you did something most of us would have wanted to do, was do something athletically in college, and very few of you go on to do that. Even though there are a lot of athletes there, the
Yeah.
percentage of, that play high school that go on to college are small, but that was kind of a cool thing for you to be, named captain.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's an honor. I think that it just carried through from high school, and I'll give the credit to my parents, where I don't think I was doing anything special. I think what I was doing was trying to be the best that I could be, right? Making sure that I'm going to practice, making sure that and I loved it. So I'm watching videos at night. I'm telling guys different things they should do to maybe improve. And I think that just me being in it, we called ourselves track heads, right? Because we read about it, we watched video about it, we talked about it, and then we trained, as often as we could. And I think just by doing something that I loved and enjoyed, that allowed me to be in a position to be a captain, to just kind of, help people be the best that they could be.
Was there any chance for you to run post-college anywhere?
Yeah, so actually, I moved to Maryland. I'm working my way down the East Coast, right?
Mhm.
Starting New York, then Philadelphia, then Maryland. And so I was with a track club in Maryland called Maryland Elite. And so I did run with them for about, I'd say 3 or 4 years post college.
Yeah. Anybody you ran against in high school or college we might recognize?
Uh, there's a guy, I'll tell you this. I was at Penn Relays, and we
Another
were
great
in
event, by the
the
way.
yes, huge event
Yep,
in Philadelphia, very large track and field carnival that goes over 3 or 4 days, thousands of kids. There's high school age,
yep.
there's masters, there's college professionals, and we made it to the Championship of America in the 4x2, which means that we're one of the fastest 8 teams at the Penn Relays making it to the final.
Oh.
And there was a gentleman by the name of Tim Montgomery.
Mhm.
Tim Montgomery ended up being like the U.S. 100-meter champion, and I was running against him on the first leg. And I never forget, we're standing beside each other. We're at Penn Relays. I go to University of Pennsylvania. He says to me, "Hey, Penn State, good luck." And I looked at the guy and I said, "You know what? It's not even worth me correcting him because what's about to happen is going to be ugly." And it was.
But it was a cool thing. I know I went to University of Tennessee, and I worked in the sports information department there, and of course, I mean, Willie Galt was there back in the day.
Oh, man.
We had a track team,
Yeah.
and we'd always send a track team up to the Penn Relays. That's the first time I'd ever heard of or seen the shuttle hurdle relay.
Oh, yeah.
And
Oh,
it's like,
yeah. That's unique.
yeah,
Mhm.
that's a logistical nightmare for the people who have to set all the hurdles back up. But why people would want to run and jump over a hurdle, that's another podcast, not even getting
Whole
there.
nother
Yeah,
conversation.
not even getting there. So was it a foregone conclusion you were gonna get an MBA?
Absolutely not. After 4 years of schooling, I was like, I'm done. I'm good with the formal education thing. No need to go back. But after working for a few years and having some other friends that were going back to pursue their MBA, I said to myself, either I need to start a business or I need to go get another degree, one of the two. And I wasn't really sure about what kind of business I wanted to start. So I said, oh, well, I have some time. I'm going to go get my MBA in the evening, see if it can open up some other opportunities. And it actually has led me to be able to teach at several other colleges. I've taught here at Meredith College, University of Phoenix for a little while. So it has opened up some other opportunities.
And again, another thing a lot of us would like to do is teach a class. I know you're, working at Wake Tech as well.
Yeah.
What kind of things do you get as Greg from teaching classes like that? What do you get out of that?
Uh, Mike, I really love teaching, and what I've learned is that uh, you have three groups in every class, right? There's the kids who are at the top. Those are the kids who are just like they're knocking out of the ballpark. They understand the material. The light bulb is on. They're good to go. You just got to give them the assignment. Then you got the people in the middle. People in the middle, and that's kind of most people. They're kind of there, but they kind of need a little hand holding. They need something that they can relate to. If you can take a concept and relate it to something that they know, then they're there, right? Then you got some people at the bottom who are really just not sure what's going on. And I feel like in my educational career, I've been all three of these people. Sometimes I've been the A student, sometimes I've been in the middle, and sometimes I've been very lost. And so I like to think about that as I'm preparing a lesson and presenting material to try to make it where it's relatable to something that you already know. Because if you can make that connection to something that you already know, then you're golden. You're golden. So for me, I get that satisfaction of saying, you know what? I've been there. I've been that top student. I've been in the middle, and I've been lost. And so if I can help you go from lost to towards the top, then it helps me feel great.
And it's kinda like growing up. I coached my boys in Little League baseball and Little League basketball,
Yeah,
and you knew when the light went on in
yeah,
that kid's head, and I'm sure you see the same thing in class where all of a sudden one day that student you're worried about all of a sudden sits up and like, "Oh,
yeah,
okay, I'm hooked now, keep talking,"
yeah.
which
That's
is a
it.
great feeling, isn't it?
That's it.
Yeah.
That's the best.
Uh, how often does your wife and your kids tell you to turn the professor hat off and just quit lecturing and I know this and can we move on to another subject?
Quite often, I'm the dad, and I do my best to tell as many corny jokes as I can. And I'm that guy where I'm like, all right, JC Penney's stock is like 50 cents a share. All right, come on, let's go. We're going to the store. We're going to JC Penney's and we're going to walk around. And I want you to tell me whether or not you would invest in this company. You know,
Oh,
and and they might think it's a little corny, but we have some good conversation from that. They say, oh, well, you know what? These displays look a little old. These
mhm,
prices look a little high. I don't think I would want to own this company. I'm like, we're there.
I
You
like
know,
that.
we're there. Now I'm not like that all the time,
Yeah.
but you know, it can start a good conversation just in everyday life, make it relatable to something that they understand.
Yeah, I tell my wife a lot of times, I don't know how many moments I have, but sometimes when I have one, it's pretty good. So, I like that, taking them J.C. Penney's, look around.
Yeah,
Your wife, let me pronounce it right, Soraka?
perfect.
Okay, where's where's that name from?
So that's an Ethiopian name,
Okay.
and it means strong wind. And her father actually went to school and had some classmates who were Ethiopian, and that's where he took that name.
Now, I always like to ask people on the show here, 2 questions. One
Yeah.
is, how did you and Soraka meet, and do you both tell the story the same way?
I think we would tell it the same way. And I'll tell you what, I used to work at a bank in Arlington, Virginia. I was there as a consultant. She was there as a full-time employee. And I approached her one day. She had a beautiful smile, and I asked her if she would like to go to lunch. And she told me that she does not eat lunch. I said,
Wow, what a
"Oh,
shutdown.
complete shutdown." About a month goes by, and she emails me and asks me if I'm still around, if I'd like to go to lunch. I, of course, ignored that email, and she sent a second email asking if I would like to go to lunch, and we went to lunch. And Mike, that was it.
Wow, that's funny. Where was the first lunch?
Uh, they have a courtyard there in Arlington, so we just did something downstairs in the courtyard. Just good
Yeah,
conversation, which led to several others.
mhm,
And
and
now
when
we have 17 years in the books.
there you go. At what point in time did you realize, "Oh, there's something here?"
I had that conversation with myself and with some friends, and I would say it's kind of just a feeling.
Mhm,
Yeah, I don't know how else to explain it. It's like when you know, you know.
mhm,
When you know, you know. And there have been other situations, other relationships, and there just wasn't that calm or that confidence that this is going to work out. And
mhm.
with her, I felt that.
Yeah. How long did you guys date before you got engaged?
9 months. Nine
Okay.
months. I read a book. The woman named Ayanla Van Zant, and she said that it takes 9 months to know uh, if you have uh, a child. Right? It takes 9 months for a baby to go from conception to birth. So within 9 months, you know if it's going to be a baby or not. So within 9 months of dating someone, in my opinion, at that time,
Yeah.
you know if this relationship is going to go somewhere or if it's not. And I was kind of getting to the age where it's like, we should not be wasting each other's time. If after 9 months this isn't going in the right direction, then you should go your way and I should go mine.
There you guys have a couple different cultures in your house,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
How cool is that with family gatherings and meals and holiday celebrations?
Oh well, it's the best. My family's from Panama, and my wife's mother is from Guyana, and my
Okay.
wife's father is from South Carolina. So I mean, we get to go up to Albany and visit her family who's from the South, and that's a whole different experience. When I met them, I told them I was from Panama, and they said Panama. They're like, I thought you were a soul brother. I said, well, just because we speak Spanish in Panama doesn't mean I'm not a soul brother. But anyway, it's a cool mixture of
Mhm.
of cultures for the family.
And good for
Absolutely.
the kids too to be exposed to different parts of the world. That's what I like about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've taken a trip to Panama. We actually have our kids in a Spanish speaking Montessori school so they can pick up the language at a young age. So, yeah, it's really great.
Are you bilingual?
I am working on Spanish all of the time. So if you come up to me and hit me, we can have a conversation. But I'm always working to improve.
Are you better at listening and understanding or speaking it?
I'm better at speaking, and I'm working on
Mm.
being better at listening and speaking.
If a Spanish speaking client calls you at 2 o'clock today, are you good to have that conversation in Spanish?
Sí, puedo
Nice,
hacerlo.
nice. Now
Lo puedo hablar.
how many languages does your wife speak?
You know, here's the sad thing. She also speaks Spanish, and although my parents are from Panama, she has a better accent than I do.
Oh, but tell me how good the food is, though.
Oh man, listen,
Oh,
if you have not been to Panama, I would definitely say make a trip. You can either stay out at the beaches, you can stay right down in Panama City, and it'll be the little, the little hole in the wall restaurant where the food is just amazing. The prices are fantastic. It's the rice, and since it's Panama, it's that bridge in between Central America and South America. So of course, there's a lot of wonderful seafood there. So I definitely recommend a trip to Panama if you have not been.
are you a cook at all?
I am a breakfast cook. I can make a mean sandwich. Now, my main dish is honey I'm home salmon and rice. That's my go-to dish.
Okay.
But I have to give my wife the credit. She probably cooks, I would say, 90% of the meals at home.
Did you grow up with spicy food or Panamanian spice and stuff like that?
More like Panamanian dishes.
Okay.
We have patacones, which is like it's like a plantain, but it's not sweet. We always had plantain. My mom sometimes would make arroz con pollo. So we had a wonderful menu of things growing up. Absolutely.
Very nice. Oh, yeah, I love different, cultures and heritage, just the food and the family gatherings. Because
Oh man. Oh man.
my sister's husband he's Italian, and he grew up right outside Cleveland, and, of course, their language of love is volume in their voice. So it's always fun to see different groups get together, just sit and watch and go like and then, others you meet, the food is the star of the show
Right.
and things like that, but very again, going back to the kids to be exposed to that is pretty cool. I like that
Absolutely.
a lot.
Absolutely.
One tip for somebody, watching the show today to think about a next step on planning, estate planning, how to get their affairs in order. What's the first couple things they need to think about?
Well, I'd say one of the first things they need to think about is that it's not all about estate planning. There are a lot of things that you can do. For example, making sure that all of your beneficiary designation forms are updated. So let's say, for example, you have a 401k plan, you've changed jobs, or you've changed spouses. Please make sure that you update that beneficiary form because that is going to trump anything that is even put down in a will. So make sure those beneficiary forms are updated. Another thing I would say is that if you have bank accounts and let's say you're married and your spouse is not on the account, either add your spouse to that account or they have these things called transfer on death or pay on death designations. That's just a great way to make sure that those accounts are transferred into the name of someone that you care about that can be responsible for your finances instead of having those assets have to go through the court system. So those are two things that I would definitely recommend to get in place ahead of time.
That's such a good tip because a lot of us have that paperwork. We It's probably 10 years old, 12 years
Right,
old. It's like, "Oh, yeah, I filled out a will." And
right.
since then, you've had a kid, you've moved, things like that. And
Things
again,
change.
just to keep it out of the hands of somebody again, I go back to the government, not in a negative way, but they don't know you.
Yeah.
And they have, what, 80 other cases like that they need
Oh
to go
yeah.
through?
Absolutely.
They don't have your back.
Yeah.
Oh, and again, the sad stories you must hear sometimes when people come to you because something wasn't in order has gotta just, oh, break
Yeah.
your
I mean,
heart.
it's just it's an avoidable headache. Yes, it's uncomfortable. Yes, it takes some time. But I would say that, ask for a referral. If you have a financial advisor, ask them for a referral. You hear this program and you're in North Carolina, you want to get together with me, reach out to me and let's get together. But try to find somebody that you're comfortable with because it is a little bit of a relationship. There are some things that you're gonna have to share that are quite personal. But you need to find someone that you're comfortable with and then start having these conversations about getting your affairs in order.
Yeah, it's just basically taking care of your loved ones, so that's one less thing they have to worry about when even when something is happening to you, like you're in the hospital and decisions need to be made, or you passed away and they got other things to worry about. They're missing you. They're trying to figure out what's the next step without you and things like that. And the last thing they got to worry about is stuff like that. So I'm glad you were there to help people. Folks, we've been putting Greg's phone number on the screen during the show. If you just have some questions, like he said, reach out to him. I know you'll be in good hands. I have enjoyed this very much, Greg. I mean, you were an athlete in college, and for people like me I would have gladly walked onto a community college team in tennis, but just to do that. So congratulations for all that. But I think even cooler is just being named captain of a team because that speaks to you as a person, not as an athlete. And I think that's just a huge compliment.
Well, Mike, I have to say, it was an honor. The teammates that I've had, the coaches that I've had, they poured so much into me. It was just a pleasure to just help my teammates, be the best that they could be.
All right. Well, next time I see you, I want your homework assignment from the show today, and I rarely give homework assignment. Okay, I need you to find some video of you running. If any exist, I want to watch that one day. All right. So that's all I ask. Very little in life, Greg. Very little. That's all I want to know. So
got you.
But anyways, go get Greg's book. If you have young kids, ABCs of Money for Girls and Boys. That is important. Again, like he said, just to start a conversation. You're not making them do anything, just to start a conversation. So
Absolutely.
Congrats on that. And like I said, we've been putting Greg's number up there. Please give him a call. Greg, thanks for being on the show today. I've enjoyed the stories very much.
Mike, it's been a lot of fun. Thank you so much for presenting this platform. And please don't forget, everyone has an estate, but not everyone has a plan. Find somebody that you can work with and get it started.
That is the number one thing I usually write down. As you can tell, I've been writing things down, and that's the first thing I wrote down, and that's what I'm going to remember from the show. That and that you are indoor state high school champ, but everyone has an estate, but not everyone has a plan. Great advice. Great advice. So that's why you should do that, folks. So reach out to Greg if you need anything, and we will see everybody next time on Triangle BNI.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by StreamingGear.com, Carolina Apparel, and DeltaForce.net.